Hello, hello, hello. I am Lisa Garr, host of The Aware Show, many different shows of The Aware Show on every network. We've got radio, internet, television, all sorts of places. So welcome, welcome, and thank you so much for being here because we have a lot of incredible information for you today. And first of all, I just want to start off by, if you have an opportunity to just text in the chat there where you're coming from, where you're calling from, where you're viewing from, and give us a chance to say hello, which would be awesome. And I also want to mention why we're doing Motivation Mondays, because it's a really cool experience for us. There's a lot of statistics around Mondays. There is, first of all, there's a study that was conducted by Marmite, and it showed that the average people in the UK won't crack a smile until 11:16 a.m. So I don't think that's okay. I think that we can smile a lot earlier than that. It's also shown that people are 30% less productive on Mondays and only manage about 3.5 hours of work throughout the day. I know that's not the case for my guest and myself, but this is for anyone who really wants a boost on Mondays. And also, it's because a lot of people during the weekends, they tend to be connected with their tribe or with their family. And then on Mondays, all of a sudden they're disconnected, and it causes depression. For this reason, the risk of heart attacks goes up 20% on Mondays. And there are so many more reasons to just have a really good dose of motivation, inspiration, and activation on Mondays. So this is a space for us all to feel connected. It's a weekly chance that gives you not only tools, transformational tools and techniques that you can actually use today that inspire your positive growth and change, but also new cutting edge information that'll help you improve your Mondays and your week and your life and your family's life. And I always bring on incredible guests. So we will have a point for you later to ask questions too, so that you're really able to engage with these brilliant guests, and you can raise your hands, you can ask questions in the chat, and I'll ask the questions for you, etc. So there's a place for you to really call this home and get inspired and be a part of the conversation, which is what conscious media, I really think, is. And speaking of conscious media, you can always check out my show on Gaia TV, which I enjoy doing so much. There's a brand new episode up there for you called, and you can find it at theawareshow.com/Sue. And if you go to theawareshow.com/Sue, you will see Dr. Sue Morter and I talk about the energy codes. Fascinating conversation, moving conversation. So check that out there. All right, so what our conversation today is about you. This is about your brain. Everyone listening has one, I'm assuming. So that's the good start. And my guest today is just a longtime mentor and friend of mine. And he is a behavioral and mindset expert, John Assaraf. And he uses the latest brain science to help people achieve more than they ever have before in life, definitely more than you ever have before in a Monday, but more in work, more in business, more in finances, more in relationships. He has a great book out called Inner Size, and it's the new science to unlock your brain's hidden power, which is, we all have the most amazing hidden power. It's just a matter of tapping into it, isn't it, John? Welcome.
Hey there, Lisa. It's so great to be on your show again. And yeah, we all have so much potential. You know, when you're talking about the brain, my ears perk up and my neurons get excited, because we're finally getting some of the user's manual on how to use the most powerful organism in the known universe, our brain. And that's really exciting with all the research that's going on. Everybody can have a little bit less stress, a little bit more fun and excitement, and a lot more life.
Yes, a lot more life. But you know what? I see you as a very activated individual. And there you are, every time I speak with you, you're present and you're fully with me, and you have a certain level of expectation for people to show up the same way. And you make me better. And
oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I love that about you. And I see doing this for thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, because you're really committed to the science behind it. And I just want to ask you about that, because you don't just say, well, I've heard, or studies say. You actually know the research and have discovered the research. What for you is the main thing, if you want to tell people about the power of their brains, that really make a difference right away?
I think number one, I'm going to start off where I many times finish off, and that is, if you just think for a moment on what time in history you're alive. And the answer is, 2019, 2020-ish time frame. 107 billion people have walked this earth before you. For the last 500 years, we've gotten a little bit of science under our belt. 500 years. We've been walking on earth, in one form of, being a human or another for over 2 million years. And that all brings me to, if you had to be alive to know, what should I do? Why should I do it? How should I do it? When should I do it? What are the tools? What are the resources to achieve any financial, business, health, wealth, relationships, career, spirituality, goal that you wanted to achieve? Right now is the best time ever to be alive, because the answers are at your fingertips.
That is true.
Right?
That is true.
So what I always share with my children and my students from around the world is the how-to should be your least of your worries, because that is the easiest thing to get your finger on. The area to really focus more on is, why am I not taking inspired action to be healthier, happier, wealthier, etc.? Like, what's really holding me back when I know that I have more potential that I'm not using, when I know that I'm capable of achieving more, but I'm not, right? So that's really where, I get fascinated, because now we understand many, many more reasons why people don't take action, even when they have knowledge and skills.
That's interesting. I'm interested in that, because we felt it. We've all felt it. At points in our lives, we've been in the flow. We've been in the zone. If you're an athlete, you felt that when time stands still and you cross that finish line, and it's an incredible high. And when we've all felt that. So that is a great question. Why, if we know it's possible, we've even felt it, John, do we not access it, especially when the chips are down, when the stress is up?
Well, it's exactly because, when the stress is elevated, what we know from the research in science is our brain is made up of, let's say, 100 billion brain cells, numerous networks or circuits. So imagine you had, I'm just going to use a round number just for the purpose of making a point. Let's say you had 10 switches in your brain. Let's say you had the spirituality switch that you could turn on and you feel more connected. Let's say another switch is your motivational switch. Another switch is your imagination switch. Another switch is your fear switch. Another switch is your stress switch. So imagine we have these switches in our brains that go on and off based on either what we're thinking or feeling, or based on external cues that tell those switches to go on or off. Now, if you don't know that you have these switches that are going on or off because of external or internal cues, then you're like a little puppet, and something or someone is moving that little puppet around, and you're feeling good one minute and feeling shitty another. You're motivated one moment and depressed another. You're excited and raring to go, maybe on Monday afternoon, but not on Monday morning. And what most people don't realize, because they haven't been taught, is you are not your brain. You have a brain. It's like You are not your light switch in your house. You are not, your gas pedal in your car. You have a light switch you could turn on or off. You have a gas pedal and a brake that you can use your feet to turn, to get the car to go faster or to put on the brake. But until you learn what are these things that turn on or off for me that cause me to take inspired action or not, and until you learn how to recognize the internal and external cues and then determine what behavior or what you should think and what you should feel about that is, then you are a victim of ignorance.
And okay, so that makes perfect sense. And sometimes the victimhood could be your external circumstances, the wind, the weather. I mean, it could be
Correct.
so many different things. And we think those are the switches. So, okay, so you're saying we are not our minds. We are not our brains.
Well, yeah, let's differentiate mind from brain, right?
Okay.
Your brain is an organism. The activity that the brain produces is called mind.
Okay.
Right? So brain is like heart, right? The electrical activity of your heart is not your heart. Your heart produces electrical activity.
Okay.
Right? Your brain produces neurochemical activity or electrochemical activity. That is what we deem to be mind. Now, you're probably not going to get too many scientists to agree on any description of what mind is, because nobody really knows what mind is. And there's so many different layers to this onion. I want to make sure this is how I describe it and how I interpret all of the research.
Okay. Okay. So then you're saying we are not our brain.
Or your mind.
Or our mind.
Right.
So then what are we?
We are pure consciousness in different states of awareness and vibration. So if we go to the, I know that a lot of discussions you and I have had in the past is that, everything is energy and it's vibrating in different degrees, different oscillations. And so when we take a look at our hand through an electron microscope, or even our brain through an electron microscope, all we see is vibrating packets of quanta. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, all coalesced into this sentient form, solid form at this level of the vibration that we call is a human. Now, this thing that we call a human has got a brain that's an organism with a nervous system, right, with faculties of senses of hear, see, smell, taste, and touch to be able to deal with our external world. We have internal tools that we can use, like imagination, like perception, like our ability to intuit, to have instinct about what's happening around us when not even a word has been said. And these are all tools that we have as part of this living, breathing organism called the human being.
Okay, so then with these tools that we have, we get, if we become aware of the switches, the ons and the offs, the switches where we can actually regulate our level of happiness, our level of motivation, our awareness about things, then
and your behavior.
And our behavior.
Right? So if you think about on this physical planet called Earth, when we want to achieve something, there is usually a behavior, what we do or don't do.
Okay.
Right? And so the question is, who is making the decision on what I do or don't do? And what drives this organism? Is there a hierarchy of automatic decision-making processes that happen in our brain?
Yeah,
and the answer is, of course there is. So if we think about the organism itself, I know a lot of people, and they're watching me right now, and they see, skin and eyes and hair, and there's a septum underneath my nose. But if you were to take away my skin, and you were to, even remove the capillaries and the veins, what would you end up with?
A skeleton.
Okay? A skeleton. Well, let's take away the skeleton. What would you end up with? You would end up with a brain and a nervous system
Oh, yes.
that has got the ability to decipher between electromagnetic frequencies, light that comes in through the eyes, interpreted by the brain based on what's in the memory bank and based on predictions of what it could be or might be. We have sound waves coming in through our ears. We have tactile senses to send electrical signal through our nervous system to our brain to be able to tell us what's going on. And these senses are sending information into our brain for a couple of reasons. But number one, above all else, is safety above all else. Safety of survival and avoidance of any type of physical, mental, emotional pain.
Yep.
So any information, anything that we think about that might cause us financial, emotional, mental, or physical pain, or even spiritual pain, that actually activates a circuit called the fear or stress or pain circuit.
So this is what happens when we see the money drain out of the bank account, or the expenses exceed the income. The modern day brain goes
Correct.
into the panic, survival, there's no safety here any longer, and fear.
Well, the fear circuit is activated. The neurochemistry that goes along with fear or stress is activated. A system called the sympathetic nervous system is activated, which is our fight or flight response system. And so when we're in this automatic fight or flight response system, motivational circuit shuts down. The imagination circuit shuts down. The deductive reasoning, our ability to actually think and make smart decisions, shuts down. All the blood flow from that area in the brain shuts down and moves towards the fight or flight system in the brain. And in that modality, in that state, we are not taking action towards our goals and dreams.
Right. No motivation. Right.
That's right. So our only motivation, okay, and our only behavior is either we're running away, we're freezing and we're not doing anything, so we're fighting it, or in some extreme cases, we'll actually faint. So it's fight, flight, freeze, or faint. Those are the 4 behaviors that occur when that system is activated. So when somebody says, you know what, I want to double my income, there's a part of their brain that goes, yeah, that's great. That would be amazing. I can go on some trips and pay off my debt and buy my mother a little gift and take my dad and get him a nice new suit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in the very next second or nanosecond, if our brain perceives any real or potential danger, real or potential, the brakes go on. Because it's a protective mechanism first, avoidance of pain at all cost. And so if there is any real or potential pain or damage, then in the very next second, we actually lose motivation and we don't take action. So earlier when I said, we have these amazing tools available to us, but we don't have the user's manual. The reason I wrote my book, Inner Size, was to say, okay, here is how the orchestra works, right? So if you thought about your brain, right? Imagine you have, you're a conductor, okay? You have an amazing band or orchestra. And your job is to get the trombone player and the piano player and the strings and the quartet and the bass guitarist to all play in harmony. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, not too much of this, not too much of that. No, that's too high. No, that's too low. You're trying to get this harmony going so that it just works in coherence. When an orchestra or a band plays in coherence, in harmony, it's like, wow.
Beautiful.
It just touches me. It just resonates.
Yes. Yes.
When any one player, one musician is out of whack, you're like, what? Wow, something's off. That is the visual I'd like people to have for their brain. When you
Yes.
get your brain in coherence between just enough motivation, just enough stress, just enough challenge, just enough comfort, just enough motivation, when you get this beautiful harmony going between your two ears, then motor cortex activates. The dopamine is released by the nucleus accumbens in the brain. So it's almost like a little processional effect when it goes ding, 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 ding. When it all works together, motivation activates, the motor cortex, the behavioral engine of, I'm going to take action on this, starts getting your little feet to move into action, or your phone, or whatever it is that you need to do to actually achieve the goal that you want. When you are in coherence, that is the absence of neural chaos.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful description. What a beautiful description. And it is not, our default is to go into the fear. And that is what our brain is, it's the default mechanism is fear. It takes a conscious effort to go into that
Bingo.
state of coherence.
Bingo.
And then, but if we just get there, then it starts to flow. You don't even have to come up with a list of 10 things to do, or, you know, sit and, I mean, you could go on a run that could actually achieve brain coherence, but it's just the frequency of coherence, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to be thoughts. It's just the frequency of coherence.
There are certain things you can do to get into coherence, right? If you think about what I'm going to keep using the band analogy, or the orchestra analogy, you know, they all practice to tune their instruments, whether it's vocal, right, or instrumental. So they take time to tune in, and then once they're in coherence, let's play, let's go, and then they tune in, right, and they get everything in resonance, and then they play. And so there's a constant tweaking to be able to tune in to the right frequency. So what's the right frequency we're looking for? Well, we're looking for thought frequency.
Is this how to get into the coherence? Is that what you're?
No, but the things that you want to be focusing on is get the mindset right, the heart set right, and the gut right.
Oh.
Mind, heart, gut. Get all three of the intelligences in the body in coherence.
And this allows you to get into the motivation orchestra.
Now you get into your flow. How do you get into your flow zone where you're taking inspired action? How do you get into your flow zone where when fear pops up, do you have, for example, do you have a process to recognize fear, reframe it so it doesn't scare you into inaction? Do you have any techniques to release it? And do you have any ways to retrain your brain so the same internal or external stimuli does not activate that fear response? I'll give you an example of what I mean.
Okay.
Let's say today was your first day on the job as a firefighter. You'd be scared shitless until you upgraded your knowledge and your skills of what to expect, until you practiced, and until you got comfortable with the amount of danger. They wouldn't throw you into a raging fire if you were first day on the job, because you overload all of your circuits. And so they would get you to intellectually understand what needed to do. They would get you to focus on what you wanted. They would make sure that this was something that you were, you know, in your heart, you really wanted to be a firefighter because you want to save lives and make a difference, right? And then they would make sure that your knowledge and your skills and your heart and your gut of this is what I'm going to do no matter what are aligned.
Okay, so it's mind, heart, gut.
You got it.
Okay, so this is great. So if we are, let's say that we've learned how to stop going to the fear default. We know that that's our default mechanism. We're aware of it.
You can't stop going there.
Okay. You can be aware.
You can increase your awareness. I want to make sure that we talk about that on the Aware Show.
Yes. Yes. I appreciate that.
Awareness gives us choice. Choice is what gives us freedom.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay.
right?
Awareness.
So
yes.
here's what you never, ever, 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 ever want to stop: your fear signal from working.
True. It is your safety signal, isn't it?
It is one of the most highly developed parts of your brain that has been evolving for millions of years. And so as 400 billion with a B bits of information are coming into your consciousness from all the external world per second, your subconscious fear center is analyzing all of this information, and based on everything in your genetic code and everything in your physical life, in billionths of a second, it's analyzing friend or foe, danger or okay, go, stop. And it then sends a signal to your consciousness in the form of a neuro or a neuroelectrical signal for you to be aware of.
Okay, it does its job.
Yes,
that's its purpose.
And what most people do is when they have this feeling, right? Their emotions and feelings are two different things. When people have a feeling that they either don't like or makes them feel a little anxious, they want to avoid it. They want to suppress it. They want to do everything
deny it,
but be aware of it and go, my body's in this uneasy, uncomfortable feeling that I don't like. What's causing this? Right? What most people don't understand is the feeling is the end state of the neurochemical release.
Okay, so that point you could be in choice. You could
Correct.
say,
Correct.
what do I think about this? So the fear happens. That's a great piece. It's the end of the fear piece. That's the end of the result of it.
Right.
So then you can observe it and say,
is this real danger? Is this imagined danger?
Is it right?
Is this going to really harm me? Or is it something that's based on my childhood? Is it something that occurred to my sister or my brother or my father?
Or is not true?
On TV, right? 99.999% of the stuff is all made up fantasy in our brains. It's percolating up from our memory bank. And so the key is that first you celebrate and congratulate that your emotions and feelings are working perfectly. And then you rise up to higher cortical functions through mindfulness and choice.
Okay. Question. So in that place, can you just go to meditation, John, to create the coherence? Or do you have to have steps in there to really, is meditation too high of a state?
It is. So,
Gotcha.
meditation is too high of a state for this.
Gotcha.
Right? So mindfulness is not. Right? So one of the first things that I do, as soon as you feel this, I'm not motivated, I'm
apathetic.
I'm apathetic. I really don't feel like it. Right? The first thing that I teach everybody how to do in my book is exercise number 1 is exercise is for your physical muscles. Exercise is for your mental and emotional muscles. That's the way I look at it as neuromuscles. So if you in this state of apathy or this disempowered, unmotivated state, you just do a breathing exercise where you take 6 deep breaths in through your nose, slowly. And then as you breathe out through your mouth, breathe out like you're breathing out through a straw, slowly. Now, when you do this 6 times,
yes,
in through your nose, out through your mouth, gently and rhythmically, the first thing that happens is you deactivate the fear and stress center in the brain.
Good to know.
You deactivate the sympathetic nervous system in the brain that's just probably released cortisol or epinephrine or norepinephrine, and you activate the parasympathetic calm and response system as you've just deactivated the stress and react system of the brain. When you're in a state of stress, you react automatically to your lowest common denominator. When you're in a calm and respond, now you can reactivate the higher cortical functions and go, okay, let me shift from inner size 1 to inner size number 2. And inner size number 2 is called Aya, A-I-A. And Aya, the first A stands for awareness.
Okay.
Awareness of my thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and the behavior that I'm engaged in right now.
Okay.
So am I having positive, constructive thoughts or disempowering, destructive thoughts? Is the feeling that I have right now moving me towards the goal or dream that I have, or is it causing me to take the break or put the brakes on and retreat? Is the behavior that I am engaged in right now, is it a forward moving towards my goals behavior, or is it a retroactive behavior? No way. And as you do this in awareness, you should think about it as awareness without judgment, blame, shame, or guilt, or justification. No judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification. Why? Because whenever we're looking and observing, all we're seeing is the functionality of what's happening, like I'll say, like in the engine. Don't get mad, don't justify, don't blame, just be aware. So if the first part of awareness is seeing what's actually happening, what's causing this, then I could shift to the I in Aya and I can go, what's my intention right now? My intention to be happy? Yeah, it's to be happy. Or my intention to be sad? No. Is my intention to be angry? Is my intention to be fearful? No. So understand what's your intention, because this is where you are at choice. Observation gives you choice. Now I can choose. Then if you want to use your brain better in a state of stress or fear or uncertainty or self-doubt, I'm not going to want to take action. But the way I can retrain my brain is to say, okay, I get the way I'm feeling. I get what I'm doing or not doing. What's one little tiny thing that I can do towards the goal and dream that I have?
Okay, that's the action, right?
Not 10, 1. Awareness, intention, action.
Action, okay.
And now what we've done is a multitude of unbelievable things. Number 1, now we have increased our awareness. We've been mindful without judgment. Then we have deliberately chosen our state.
Yes.
And Lisa, you and I have talked a lot about quantum physics in the past. And energy, in its unadulterated full potential state, is a particle and a wave until we collapse that wave. Our intention is what collapses the waves at the quantum field.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. Yes.
So now I am not only deliberately aware and choosing, I'm collapsing potentiality right now using the power of my brain, the most powerful electromagnetic switching station in the known universe. And then I'm backing it up with behavior.
Okay, great. So that perfect example as to why just going right to meditation doesn't necessarily work. Going to the mindful action works.
There you go.
And if you have so say you're the financial success we were talking about, and you need to make rent happen or mortgage or whatever happen, and it's not there. You can't just meditate it to be there. You can set the intention, and then the brain collapses and goes into that objective state and starts to go into action as to how that money is going to get there. Correct. And that's how it gets there.
Correct. Well, it's a little bit different than that, but so let's say you don't have
synopsis.
Let's say you don't have money for the rent, and you keep focusing on I don't have money for the rent. Now you're collapsing the I don't have money for the rent wave. And so then you're feeling in line or in harmony with I don't have enough money. right? You're
Okay.
thinking, I don't have enough money. You're seeing you don't have enough money. You're feeling, I don't have enough money. Holy shit, I'm not motivated. I don't know what to do. Then you don't take action to have more money. Versus frozen. So fight, flight, free, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. So,
Or faint.
or faint. Another way to do it is in a state of pure calmness, not stress. You observe, okay, I don't have enough money for the rent. It's causing me to feel a certain way. It's deactivating my motivation center. Okay, I see the pattern. This pattern has been created because of what I did or didn't do in the past. And so to be in control, to make sure I don't create it today, this week, next week, my intention is to be positive, confident, certain, and my intention is to figure out a way to earn the money so that I can pay the rent on time or maybe a few days late. And one action step that I'm going to take to make that happen is I'm going to sell some stuff that I have at home that I don't need today on one of the online sites that I can do it. I'm going to call some friends of mine to see if I can do some freelance work for them. I'm going to ask my boss for a raise. I'm going to, and list out one thing. And then guess what happens? You list out one thing, you're in a positive momentum going forward. You then go, well, what else could I do? Well, maybe there's some art that I don't need. Maybe there's a friend of mine who has some furniture, computers, or something that they don't need that I could maybe put an email out to other friends who may want it. Maybe I could, maybe I could, maybe I could.
Yes, so you come up with the solutions.
You come up with the solutions. And what happens once you start getting into a solution-minded process, then doesn't that mean that energetically I'm in the solution versus being in the problem?
Yes, and yes. And every solution doesn't have to be 1,000% viable. It just gets you to the next one and gets you to the next one and gets you to the next one. Yes.
That's right. Here's what we know. Every positive solution that you drop into the ocean has a ripple effect.
That's great. That's
right?
great.
So which do you want to use the most powerful tool in the known universe to do? Do you want to use it to show you why you can't and why it's not possible and how hard it is? Is that really what you want your brain to show you? Because as soon as you say, I can't, it goes, okay. As soon as you say, I don't know how, it says, okay, we'll make that a reality for you. As soon as you say whatever it is you say, you are collapsing the wave of possibility into reality. So why not get in alignment, total coherence?
Yep. Yep.
Thoughts, emotions, feelings, behaviors, sensations, heart, mind, gut,
Yes.
and back it up with, let me get into action.
Yes. Yes. So what I would love is right now, everyone watching, type in one thing you're going to do that's going to help you towards your goal. I don't want to see, you don't need to type your goal into me. You can write it on a separate piece of paper. You can, but let's just start that positive mindset cascade in your mind of one thing that you're going to do to go into action right now. And we don't have to know the context of it. Just, call John, I mean, not this John, but, call my uncle, call something, when you just start with I just want to see some ideas come through the chat here. You just go on the chat right now and type it in, because this is exactly what John's talking about, is overriding the excuses and overriding all that, because it doesn't feed the system that we want it to feed. We want to feed the other system right now, which is going to help us move into different directions. I was just sitting here thinking, yeah, you know what? I forgot to call this person today when you were saying that. Because I'm in the mindset that you're talking about now, which is beautiful. Now, when you get into these ideas, and we're going to have these come through the chat in just a second, and I'll read some of them. Let's talk about the emotion associated with them.
Sure.
Okay. So how much does your perspective or your perception of the emotion around your intention have to do with you actually doing the intention or not? Do you know what I mean?
I think so, except
Is it important?
I differentiate emotions from feelings.
Oh,
Okay?
you do.
And
Okay.
let me explain.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
Emotions are triggered as a result of subconscious programming around that thing.
Oh, okay.
So let's say, let me give you an example. Let's say you and I are sitting on a bus, and somebody comes onto the bus with a gun, okay? And let's say I'm a highly trained Navy SEAL dealing specifically, okay, with, let's say, terrorist attacks in situations like this, hostage terrorist attacks. And let's say you're not, or vice versa. So the person who's not is probably going to go into, oh my God, panic, right? So the stimuli to an untrained person is going to be automatic panic and fear.
Right.
The trained person would probably go into immediate, high focused, high intensity situational emotions.
Because they're trained, yes.
Because they're trained. So emotions are triggered in the subconscious mind. They activate the neuroelectrical activity called a feeling. And then depending on whether that feeling, what that feeling is, people either take action or they don't take action. They move towards or they move away from, right? So a Navy SEAL, they may be trained that stimuli means analysis, quickly, act right away. Whereas the rest of us, run or sit there quietly. Oh my God, I can't move. I'm frozen in fear. So emotions are very different than feelings, but they work together. So whenever people talk about emotions, one of the 4 reasons people do not achieve their goal is because they have not learned how to manage and reinforce positive emotions or negative emotions. Right? So let me give you an example. Let's say you have a goal, any goal, a goal to walk across the room to a handsome man and say, hey, my name is Lisa, and I just noticed you, I just thought I'd say hi. Right?
Okay.
Or you have a goal, that you want to sell something because you just got new in sales, but you have this fear of being rejected or embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged or blamed, right? So whenever we're talking about a fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged, all of those emotions, you learned how to feel those things.
At some point, yes.
So you weren't born with any emotions. You were born with a brain that created meanings based on what you learned, what you experienced, what you were told. And so if you asked my sons, hey, can you get on the phone and call 100 people today? Both my sons would say, yeah, sure. My dad made me do it when I was a kid, and I overcame the discomfort of doing it back then. Yeah, if I want to make some extra money, I'll get on the phone, make 100 calls. They don't care about being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, or rejected. Making phone calls to them, they already have been trained that 99 people out of 100 will tell them no. 1 will say yes. 6 might tell them to F off. And they're like, they don't care. It has nothing to do with their identity or self-esteem or self-worth. Yeah. And so the meaning that we learned how to give things, or the meaning that we gave things as a result of our interpretations, is what's wired in our subconscious mind that triggers the emotions. Positive for some, negative for some, anger for others, right? And so there's a story of a little girl that she's driving she's driving in the back seat while her mother's driving. And she goes, Mommy, where are all the bastards today? And the mother understands what's going on. She says, sweetheart, they only come out when your father is driving. Oh. Right? So the father, if somebody cuts them off or is going too fast,
Yes.
calls these people bastards. And little kids learn
Yes.
what the fathers or mothers say to them, right? And the only reason I want to share this is we all have our own interpretations and meanings at the
Yes.
subconscious level. Whenever information's coming in, we hear something, we see something, or we want to do something, it's filtered through this emotional network in our memory bank, and that's what causes the chemicals to be released in our brain or from our brain so that we can feel something. And we move away from feelings that we don't like. We move away from feelings we don't understand. We move away from anything that we think might hurt us, and we move towards pleasure only after we have secured that this is not going to harm me.
Yeah. So that's
just the way the system works. I didn't design it. Our creator did, and she knew what she was doing better than I do.
We are meaning-making machines.
And prediction machines. So once the meanings is in there, all incoming stimuli in the environment, our brain's predicting what's coming up next, what's coming up next. And that's why, you could see a movie one time and then see something else the next time, and the next time something else. Oh, I didn't see that. Or you can see the FedEx logo a million times and never see the arrow or the measuring spoon in there.
Right.
Because your brain's already created an image of it, and unless it needs the spoon or the arrow or the wheel that's in there, it predicts in advance what it is and doesn't use any more energy to assume anything else.
Okay, so that's exactly why we get stuck in these ruts, and where we can actually make a difference. And as you said earlier, and this is the best part about this, is that we have the ability to change all of this by flipping the switches on and off. Remember, John said that at the very beginning of the show. Well, we can, now that he's done such a great job of describing these switches that we have in our own brains, we actually can control those. And so it starts with awareness, then we set intentions, then we go into action about it. And this is how these are some of the keys that you talk about in terms of resetting your brain for financial success. That's how you do it, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. So when we're talking about financial success, everybody has a money story. Everybody has certain beliefs about money, how much they could earn, what's possible, how easy it is, how hard it is, what's a reasonable tip amount. I tip here, but not there. Do I buy an economy seat, a business class seat, a first class seat? Do I buy business class on the trains or regular economy? And all the reasons why I make these decisions. These are just patterns that we've become used to. And these are patterns that are just formulating our comfort zones. And those same patterns are what's responsible for 87% of lottery winners to lose all the money. Because even when they have all the money, it doesn't match up with their internal patterns and circuits. So they get rid of the money, they sabotage it, so they're back in their comfort zone.
Yes.
We can reset all of the comfort zones for health, wealth, relationships, career, business, if we want to, and then behavior follows.
Using the inner size and all of the techniques. Now, anybody that wants to ask John a question, you can absolutely raise your hand, or Gina can pick on you, and then you can ask John a question live, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
And which would be really great. And or you can ask your question in the chat, and I can ask your question here for you, and John can answer it. Specifically, though, we're talking here about the fact of what's possible for the human being, what's possible for all of us with a brain. And that's what inner size is. And that's what John has talked about forever. You just did an incredible whole weekend on this, which was, I heard, fantastic in San Diego, your local event. And then you do the weekly brainathons. Yes?
That's right. Yeah.
Every Saturday, right?
Every Saturday, the brainathon.
Which is incredible. And that's, how many hours is that?
About 7 to 8 hours, me and other brain experts from around the world, from Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, Oxford, whoever has got some really cutting edge stuff on how we can use our brain better and how we can let go of limiting beliefs and self-esteem issues and lack of confidence, lack of certainty, self-doubt, fears, and all that stuff. I realized many years ago, and I alluded to this a little bit before, there's only 4 things that can hold us back, really. Number 1 is we don't have the knowledge and the skill. And if we don't have the knowledge and skill, then we have a little self-doubt, and self-doubt activates this fear circuit that we're going to fail. And then we don't take action. So knowledge and skill can help. Self-image can hold us back. So let's say we want to have a great relationship with somebody loving, caring, or kind. But in the back of our mind, we really don't feel like we're worthy of it or we deserve it. So that even if that person's there, we're not going to be in resonance with them because we don't feel we deserve it or are worth it. The same is true for money. So if you are earning X amount of money and you'd really like to have double that, and if you don't feel you're worth it because you're not smart enough or good enough or worthy enough, you'll never take the actions and sustain them even if you work really hard. So we all have these, financial set points. We have these relationship set points. We have fat set points. And so our hidden self-image, our hidden beliefs get in our way. So if we have a limiting belief like too young or too old or too Asian or Caucasian, I live in a small town and I can't do it here, or it's really hard to start a business because I'm a woman or a man or whatever the case is, the limiting beliefs are nothing more than patterns in the brain that we developed because we weren't born with any, that act as the lens by which we see the world and ourselves in it, but it also acts as the things that either drive our behavior or stops our behavior. So fears, knowledge and skills, self-esteem, and limiting beliefs. Those are the 4 things that are responsible for 98% of what holds people back.
Wow. We have Dawn on who has a question for you. I see that you're on there, Dawn. I don't, there. Hi, Dawn.
Hey, Dawn.
We got you off of mute. Can you hear us? Dawn. Let's see here if there's any other way.
Hey now.
There you are.
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate the opportunity and I admire what you're doing, John. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
But I think you're missing something, and this is my question.
Good.
My area of interest is that we need to create world peace. The world is that's the area of my expertise.
Love it.
What can we do to create world peace, and why are we not succeeding? No one yet, to my knowledge, has come up with a practical plan. So the issue is, how can exercise and these ideas, do you think, can this lead to something that leads to a action to lead to cooperation instead of the competition we have? I think we inherit this desire to be competitive, and Einstein told us the only way we'll create world peace, we have to teach ourselves a newer way of thinking using a new language. So as long as we have the language we've inherited, which is basically what I call tribal language, everybody's given a political symbol, we're given a religious symbol, we're given a patriotic symbol later.
Yes.
So let's take a fundamentalist. So let's apply your exercise to a fundamentalist who believes that it's appropriate. My intention is that everybody who doesn't believe my religion should have their head.
Right.
So,
thank you.
So Don, I fully agree with you. And I did a keynote in Israel a couple of years ago with Arabs, Palestinians, Jews, Muslims, and I was born in the Middle East with a lot of war. So I remember when I was born and I was a little toddler, I was told that 30 seconds by airplane, the terrorists over there are around to come and kill us, my aunts, uncles, and there was evidence that they were going to do that, and we were just as bad on the other side. So let's talk about one of the pillars that I suggested, and that is beliefs, right? So beliefs drive behaviors. When we get to the area of beliefs where the beliefs go way past beliefs to conviction, we will kill each other because of the conviction. So inner size starts with, first and foremost, a healthy respect for self and this 100 trillion cell sentient being we call a human that is interconnected with every other human being, you know, alive, every plant, every animal, everything in this universe of ours is interconnected. Now, what prevents us from seeing that? And in some cases, it's massive indoctrinations at a very young age where we have created these neural networks of hatred, of bigotry, of us versus them. Tribalism, I think, is the word that you used.
Yes.
So what's, you know, one of the keys to that is recognizing that we are one, but not just this metaphysical, airy-fairy stuff. How do we create this environment of peace? And it starts with intention and love and behavior. So first we have to start with the intention, because in my opinion, I believe that as soon as enough people have the intention, and as soon as enough people have the space of love, which I believe is the highest vibration that a human being is capable of, you know, love and giving. And then as soon as we back it up with behavior, now we are activating not just one sentient being in 100 trillion cells and all the subatomic particles within me as well, but when we unite one person, two people, three people, 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, 100, and so forth, we now exponentially increase this wave of quantum possibilities, and that's the beginning of it. And so how do we do it? Respect yourself and love yourself. Respect others and love them. Do as much good as you can in the world. Be happy, positive, kind, giving. Pay it forward. Don't expect stuff in return because you give something, because now you're trading. Give, 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 give. And that's the beginning of it. And I think the other part of it is, how do we start to indoctrinate positivity?
Ah, wow. It'd be so great. Yes. Yes.
Let's start to indoctrinate positivity. Let's wire more children's. You see, you and I, Don and Lisa, and probably most of the people watching, we have to change our neural networks. With children, we just have to help make theirs up because the networks aren't formulated yet.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Right. And so that's the beginning of it.
Don, did you see Greta Thunberg, or the 16-year-old who spoke at the UN Climate Summit?
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. And
I saw excerpts of it, but I haven't seen the whole thing because I've been scripting all day.
She's so beautiful. And this, you know, this 16-year-old, she's so passionate. And her number one thing is information. And once you can really wrap your head around this type of information, then changes the next step. And so I love what she's doing. You know, Marianne Williamson's doing the same thing.
That's
about
right.
The big truth. There's a lot of great information out there. And Don, I remember you from prior shows. So thank you for being on. And your questions are always so clear. So I really appreciate you bringing that up for us, Don.
I do want to say, though, we have to remember that when Einstein told us the only way we'll create world peace, we must teach ourselves a newer way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And the language that we inherit is a tribal language.
Yes.
Until we can teach people a new language, which our group has created, new words that change the way we think from competition to cooperation. But if we all inherit the kind of words that are all prescriptive, so that's just my awareness.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thank you. I think I agree with what you're saying. We do have to teach a new way of thinking, but we're not doing it. That's the issue. And I think inner size is a step towards it, but we don't have the new language yet.
Totally. And there's a great book called Words Can Change Your Brain by Mark Waldman and Andrew Newberg.
Yes.
Great book. I want to just challenge you for one thing, Don, and that is around the word competition. In Latin, the definition of a competition means to rise above.
Mm.
So here's what I would like to suggest, that we all compete to rise, to raise the level of our language, our love, our indoctrination, our positivity, our kindness. So if we can compete with each other to outdo ourselves in positivity towards each other, I like competition. Competition doesn't mean to take away from somebody else. It's to lift another human being up to the best and highest possibility for them.
We can do that for ourselves as
That's right.
well. Thanks, Don. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Love
Yes,
you all.
absolutely.
Thank you. Love you too, my friend.
So I so love this and this whole experience. And thank you so much for being here, John, and for contributing to our audience today, and for
Thank you.
giving us a reason to be motivated on Mondays. And if anything, go check out John's book, which is Inner Size, and My Neuro Gym is his website with lots of great information and events coming up. And thank you so much. We're going to have a link for you also about a very special offer that's coming up. So watch the replay for that. So thank you all very much. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Lisa. Always appreciate you and love you too.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And
Bye,
thank
everyone.
you. Bye. And thank you to Gina and to James, Gina producer, and James for helping facilitate everything in the background. We totally appreciate you too. Until
Bye-bye.
next time, I'm Lisa Garr, and I invite you to stay aware.